This is the reorganizational meeting of the Board of Education, which is taking place in person and will be recorded and posted on the district website. For those who are planning to attend the meeting in person, please be advised that unvaccinated individuals should wear masks. Prior to arriving on campus, we expect all attendees to complete a medical self-screening by answering the following questions. And when you took your temperature today, did you report a temperature of 100 degrees or higher? In the last 48 hours, have you experienced any COVID-19 or flu-like symptoms such as fever or chills, cough, shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, fatigue, muscle or body aches, headache, new loss of taste or smell, sore throat, nasal congestion, or runny nose, nausea, vomiting, or diarrhea? Have you tested positive through a diagnostic test for COVID-19 in the past 10 days, or are you awaiting COVID-19 test results? Have you knowingly been in close or immediate contact with anyone in the past 10 days who has tested positive through a diagnostic test for COVID-19 or who is awaiting COVID-19 test results? Are you under a government-issued travel-related quarantine? No. If you answer yes to any of the above questions, please do not come on campus. Should room capacity be reached at this meeting, any overflow will be live streaming to another location. Okay, now I'd like to call the reorganizational meeting of the board to order and lead the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now we will give the oath of office to our two new board members. Joe Cassidy first.
Both at one time or all at once?
You're next. You read that, please.
Do that. I, Joe Cassidy, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of board member according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
I, Paul Blowers, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, that I will faithfully discharge the duties of board member according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Thank you. I now open the floor for nominations for President of the Board of Education. Nominations may be made by any board member and no second is necessary. Do I hear any nominations for President? Dan?
Yes, I will nominate Jessica Harbers for President.
Are there any other nominations? For all those wishing to vote for Jess Amherst as board president, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried 7-0. Congratulations. I now open the floor for nominations for vice president of the Board of Education. Nominations may be made by any board member and no second is necessary. Yes, Judy?
I'd like to nominate Terry.
Judy Mielis nominates Terry Oweiler as vice president of the board. Do I hear any other nominations? All those wishing to cast a vote for Terry Oweiler as vice president, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried 7-0. Congratulations. Now,
I, Jessica B. Amherst, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of Board of Education President according to the best of my ability.
here, please. Congratulations.
Terry O'Eiler, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the Board of Education Vice President according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, and I will be turning the gavel. And you have a new seat.
I have all of the agendas in the world. Okay. Thanks, folks. Everybody brought their patience and compassion, understanding. Let's see. We've called the meeting to order with the pledge. Yes, the superintendent. Item A. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education appoint Chaplain E. Whopper as district clerk for the 2021-2022 school year as at the hourly rate outlined in your agenda, effective July 1, 2021. May I have a motion? Moved by Terry. Second. Seconded by Judy. All those in favor?
Aye.
7-0. I forgot the discussion. I'll get better. Did anyone have any discussion? Item B, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education appoint Sue Kramer to act as deputy district clerk during the district's fiscal year beginning effective July 1, 2021, and authorize her to perform such duties and actions as may be required of the district clerk in the event of the district clerk's unavailability. May I have a motion? Moved by Terry.
Second.
Seconded by Dan. Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Item C, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education appoint Julie Nagel as district treasurer for the 2021-22 school year, effective July 1, 2021, at the salary indicated, and that in her absence, Melissa Webster, assistant district treasurer, be authorized signature on checks. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Moved by Paul. Second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Joe. Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Item D, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education appoint Susan Hardy as claims auditor for the 2021-2022 school year at the hourly rate indicated, effective July 1 through June 30th, 2022, July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. I have a motion? Moved by Terry, seconded by Kim. Discussion? All those in favor? Oh, discussion?
If you need one, I'm right here. Yes, second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried 7-0. We're gonna have fun, folks.
These are all great appointments.
Yeah.
They are.
We're delighted to have all these folks.
Absolutely. And thank you, Jackie, for sticking around.
No problem.
The board, item 2, the Board of Education would, may have a motion to enter executive session to discuss employment history of 5 particular employees and 2 matters related to pending litigation. Moved by Dan.
Second.
Seconded by Joe. All those in discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Good evening, folks. This is the Board of Education meeting for July 7th. We're returning from executive session where we discussed the employment history of 5 particular employees and 2 matters related to pending litigation. Are there any agenda changes?
Yes, I have 2. First, new item S under 11, other items requiring board action, appoint probationary 1.0 FT elementary principal.
The board all right if we take action on that item now? Sure. Right. Then item S. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the appointment of Ms. Tahani Kantoha to a 1.0 FTE probationary position with the title of elementary principal within the tenure area of elementary principal effective August 9, 2021, as detailed in your agenda addition. May I have a motion? So moved by Judy. Seconded by Terry. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations and welcome. Are there any other agenda changes?
Yes, and item E under 8, reports and board discussion, Board of Education 2021-2022 calendar.
Thank you. Okay, superintendent's comments.
Yeah, I just wanted to say welcome to Mrs. Pantoil. We're really grateful to have her with us. We're looking forward to enjoying this as soon as possible. So I think she's going to be able to be here a few days to touch base with some of the administrators before her start date in August. August 9th. Oh, sorry. It's August 9th. And so, yeah, congratulations. We're really happy to have you join the team. And so, yeah, no, the summer's been off to a great start. I want to thank the administrators who have done a lot of work in terms of preparation for the opening of school in September. We're really hopeful that the way things are right now, that we'll be able to come back full-time, 5 days per week, K through 12. We're still waiting for guidance from New York State. We haven't received any official guidance, so we're just kind of going on our own. And again, they've been working really hard to pull some training together for our teachers. I want to thank Mrs. Marinaccio, who met with our counselors and psychologists and social workers today to talk about social emotional learning, trauma-informed instruction to prep for when kids come back in September, because our students have experienced a lot of various things over the last 18 months, and so we want to make sure that we're well prepared when we return in September. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of the summer. It's really quite busy. Our schedules are full. Trying to find meeting time. It is challenging because there's a lot of good things going on. So I want to also thank them for a really great end of the school year. I think we had some really wonderful outdoor activities. We had a field day and hot dog cookout and send off the summer. And I have to say, graduation was really incredible. Bill and his team just did a fantastic job. We had 1,000 people here on the field, and it just went perfectly. It was a really great celebration. It was a beautiful day. Thank goodness it was kind of windy because it was really warm. But besides that, it just couldn't have gone any better. Just a lot of happy faces, and it was just great to have people together to celebrate in that way, and I think it bodes well for the future. So again, thanks for all of that. So.
Board presidents and board member comments. We'll start with our new board vice president, Ms. Weiler.
Thank you, Board President. First of all, I want to say thank you to Jessica on behalf of the board for your wonderful speech that you gave at high school graduation. It was really great, and you are our superhero. The fact that you were able to give that speech and did not break down, knowing that your daughter was one of the graduates. So it was a really great speech. So thank you. Next, Mr. Cummings. If anyone did not hear Mr. Cummings' graduation speech, I highly encourage you to go home and listen to it. It was so Mr. Cummings, and I'm sure it took an astronomical amount of time for him to write it. It was so incredibly profound. Like I said, I really encourage anyone who has not heard it to go back and listen to his speech. His speech about tests, it was amazing. Class of 2021, they gave 3 gifts, and each one of the gifts was so thoughtful and touching. The first one being that they wanted a new entrance on Sweet Road, a new main entrance. So there's going to be a new sign that's going to identify the high school. Second gift is to complement the 18 trees that the Sustainability Club has planted. They are going to start a butterfly garden near the main entrance. Third one, there's a student who was 2 years older than this class, not even in the same class, not the class above them, 2 years above them. And he unfortunately died. And this class, for their third gift, gave a $500 scholarship to the Nate Lumber Scholarship Fund. And to me, that was just so incredibly touching, knowing that not a lot of these kids knew him or had contact with him being so much younger, but they were that just so thoughtful and so kind to donate $500 in scholarships. So that I thought definitely needed to be mentioned, needed to be said. I also want to thank you, Brian. I want to thank you as a parent and as a taxpayer for not succumbing to the pressures for the last few months. You have continued to follow the guidance that has been given to us by the county and by the state to ensure that our students, our teachers, our staff, and our community has stayed safe. Our students come to our schools to learn. Every day they come knowing there's a set of rules that they need to follow. Some of the rules are made by their teachers, some by the principals, some by you, some by the Board of Education. You showed them by leading by example that you have to abide by the rules. Even when sometimes you don't want to, you have to. We have a neighboring district with the end of June was threatened by both the county and the state with fines, with loss of state aid, and with the imminent closure of their schools because they were not following the guidance. Had any or all of those happened to our district, that would have put us in a very precarious situation. So again, as a taxpayer and a parent, I thank you immensely for continuing to follow the guidance that is given to us. Because it may not be a rule that we want to follow, but it's a rule that we have to follow. So thank you. I'm done.
How do you follow there?
No,
I just say amen. No, no, I wanted to, I'd like to thank Mr. Roberts and Mr. Moore so much for that graduation. I was teaching when that class came in, 3rd grade, and Parkdale was K2. And when they came on board, they said to all of us that were involved in counseling or working with behavior kids and what have you, oh boy, watch out for these kids, you know. And when they came up to middle, oh boy, watch out for these kids. And I have to tell you, I saw them grow over those few years. And by the time they hit 8th grade, I can remember I was teaching English with Elka at the time, Module, and we both just sat down at the end of the day one day and they said, they're exhausting, but they are so creative and they are so kind in so many ways. And they really watched out for one another. And I thought that it was wonderful to be able to be out there at the fields to begin with and not just have a drive-by. I mean, that was such a blessing. And 4 of my 5 grandsons were there. And I have to say, the little guys had never seen the field. So, and there was a lot of people that said that to me later. I've never been up here. And I thought, what a blessing that was for the community to be able to have that experience too. So that was really, really impressive. And I would like to extend my special thank you to the people that were volunteers there, the PTO and so on that helped out. They were incredible. I mean, you started on time, you ended on time. That alone was pretty impressive. I really thought that was cool. And I too would love to send and I already sent an email to Chris. I taught with Chris at middle and just phenomenal fellow and what an impression he made. And I ended up writing down, not only was he inspirational, but he's such a great role model. And he truly is. And I thought we were so lucky to have the teachers we have to begin with, but he was just impressive. Then I just wanted to mention the interview process for bringing Paul on board for filling our vacancy. A couple of things occurred to me when we were going through that. First of all, I thought we did such a phenomenal job because we videotaped what we were going to do, and we had just Mary Beth ask the questions. There were just 3 questions. There was consistency throughout the whole thing. But I think what surprised me, it was very enlightening to see the number of people and the talent of the 15 people that applied. It was incredible. I kept thinking, why are these people running? I mean, absolutely phenomenal talent out there and available to us. And we did encourage them to join committees and things like that where they could. So those are my few things that just occurred to me that Thank you so much for a beautiful graduation. It was well done, and it was wonderful. You know, I just can't say enough about it. I thought it was really a valuable experience at so many levels. And you started on time and ended on time. It's very good. Out there in the sun. Thank you, Jerry.
I'll just, echo what everyone said about graduation. It was really phenomenal. I think there were so many people involved in it that had to come together to pull that off and make the change to switch it to Sunday from Saturday. And it was as wonderful as I think it could have been. And so kudos to all of them. And I'll add on the PTO, having the water and distributing the water at the beginning was most definitely appreciated by all. So I'll just add that a little bit. But thanks.
Can I just comment on Joe's comment? I want to thank him because it was super windy that day, and I left my speech on the podium. And the next thing I know, he's coming up to me with my folder, and he's like, "Hey, Brian, I found this," and it was empty. That was my speech. I was in that folder. I said, "Holy cow!" It was like 5 minutes before graduation was starting. I ran back up to the stage to say, "Oh my goodness, where is it?" And fortunately for me, it blew out and it went right underneath the planter. I was stuck underneath the planter, and so but if you would have told me, it would have probably blown away. So I did a gratitude.
Just a couple comments like you brought up to speed. First of all, I want to thank the members of the Board of Education for my appointment. I'm looking forward to working with you in your efforts to keep the East Aurora Union Free School District a standard bearer of educational excellence and community pride. Thank you for that. Secondly, I'd like to congratulate Joe Cassidy on the election of the school board. And finally, I want to publicly thank Mary Beth Colbert for her years of service on East Aurora School Board. In my opinion, Mary Beth is a class act. Mary Beth was one of the board members who hired me as a school business official in 2007, accepted my retirement resignation in 2008, appointed me to a vacant school board position that I'm sworn in tonight. I'll always be grateful for her support. During her tenure as a school board member, I've admired the way she could balance her support of students, staff, and taxpayers, but it seemed that the needs and concerns of those groups differed. She was one of the best at getting everyone to move forward altogether. Just wanted to share that. That's what I have tonight.
Thank you. Just looking around the table, I'm just so happy to welcome our two new board members and congratulate them. This is your first official meeting, and we're just delighted to have you with us. And I also want to welcome and thank our two new officers for stepping up in a leadership role. I think it's going to be a great year with terrific leadership like we've got. And I have to keep going around the table here. Thank you to Brian for all of his leadership in a most difficult year, and to Jackie for sticking with us through thick and thin. Jackie has tried to retire, I think, 2 or 3 times already. We're just not going to do that. So Kim and I are going to stay down this end and make sure that you folks all stick with us. Oh, and I have one other thing. Monday night, there will be an audit committee meeting on July 26th at 9 in the morning. Paul has agreed to join the audit committee. Thank you very much, Paul. So Paul and I, there's room for one more board member if anyone would like to join the audit committee. We're going to talk about committees in a few minutes, but it's July 26th at 9 in the morning. It's the meeting we have with the auditors prior to the commencement of the annual audit, which will start that very day. For those of you who are interested in minutia, it took me about 50 hours to schedule this meeting. So it has finally come to pass. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, I'll just finish up with once again welcoming the new board members and looking forward to serving with you, especially as we face, some challenging times in front of us. I know that we'll all work together to navigate through these things. I also want to take a second to thank all the people that submitted resumes, cover letters, and then came in and interviewed with us. There's a ton of talent in our community that we're definitely going to tap into. So I want to thank all of those people for taking the time.
Well, I will just second everything that everyone else said. Brilliant, well done. Thank you to Mr. Roberts and Mr. Moore for a fabulous graduation. I did not cry until later, but it was absolutely phenomenal. And thank you to all of our administrators for your Herculean efforts for the entire school year, but the end of the year, you pushed so hard to make sure our kids had memorable moments in those last weeks of school. We would never have thought everyone would have been able to pull off what you pulled off this year. I think you made some lasting memories at the end of a really challenging year. In the retail business, everybody says your last impression is what people take away. I think you left a fantastic last impression for the school year that wiped away any of the pain and suffering that folks had gone through with their Chromebooks and dog biting them when they're supposed to be doing their work or whatever. So thank you. It was a phenomenal finish to a bumpy year. And Mr. Ross, of course, thank you for your leadership. With that, I also want to thank our board candidates. That was fantastic to have 15 people throw their hats in the ring. I knew 2 bowed out after it was recognized how many people we had in, but I'm so grateful to all 15 candidates for stepping up, and just getting to read the letters and resumes for those folks was an honor. These are dedicated humans with a wealth of experience, and I'm very much looking forward to working with all of them in some capacity, and I'm sure the rest of the board feels the same way. And then thank you also to the administrators for your nonstop efforts that are carrying you through the summer. I'm sure we're ramping up to a great school year, and just there's no stopping you. Thank you. Moving on to administrator comments. We have a board table to work with. We're just gonna go for it. Ms. George, do you have anything?
Take care of my accountants during the financial.
Fantastic. Ms. Lyons, our new director of instruction.
I do not.
Thank you. We'll go back to Cindy.
So we are doing the UPK drawing this week, lottery, and notifying families of the students that are going to be accepted. So hopefully those letters / emails are going to go out tomorrow. And as Mr. Russ mentioned, we had I called it our counselor summit. So I had all the social workers, counselors, psychologists meet today, so we can start prepping and planning for welcoming teachers back and supporting them and helping to support our students and supporting our students also. So we sort of broke it down into like a 2-phase planning meeting, and we plan on meeting again the beginning of August, because we walked away today with a whole bunch of action items and ideas, and we want to put that plan together, and we're going to invite all of the principals to be part of that meeting in August, so we can be prepared for everybody to come back in September.
Can I jump in for just a second? Cindy, thank you so much for all the work you've done to get this UPK thing started. I know it was a burden to do it in such a quick period of time. So thank you very much. Help me to understand, we're going to have 2 classes at the East Aurora Community Nursery,
Yes.
And 1 class at Parkdale.
Correct.
And the 2 classes at East Aurora Community Nursery will be contracted. We'll contract for those services. Will they also be operating the class at Parkdale, or will that be a district?
That'll be a district.
That'll be a district.
That'll be a district, yes.
Thank you.
I'm in the process of working on the contract right now with the attorney and with the community nursery.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions on the UK?
Yeah, I do. And kind of those classes that are off the campus, that they have to meet all the SED requirements for facilities?
So, yeah, they have to be, well, I shouldn't say all of them. I'm not quite sure. There's specific regulations for UPK and the UPK classrooms. So they had to meet all of that. And that was all part of the proposal that we had asked for and that they had to submit. And then all of the details, all of the insurance and all of those details will be worked out with the contract.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Were we able to get the information about the transportation out? Do we feel like the public all understands what the transportation is going to be?
Yeah, so we had sent,
great.
we had updated the website. We extended the registration by like a week and a half. I believe we sent out a communication through, it was one of the local papers with the, was it the advertiser? Okay, with the advertiser. So we had put an ad in the advertiser notifying people of that.
Great.
And did you get more applicants during that period of time?
Yes, we did have additional applicants. I don't know if it was related to the busing or not, nobody said it's
Yeah,
because of that, but we did-
it did result
in additional applicants, yes.
Good, thanks.
Just on that, do we have significantly more applicants than we do spots at this point?
No. So we had 57 applicants and 54 spots.
Oh, that's wonderful.
When is the lottery?
The lottery, the random number list was generated, so I have that list, and like I said, I plan on notifying families tomorrow.
And there's no way they can nominate 3 additional children?
Well, what we're closely to is they'll be on a waiting list to see if somebody, because we had about 72.
We had about 70, so there were a significant number that had dropped out already before we even did the lottery, just for various reasons, and go ahead, I
So
didn't mean to
we're
interrupt.
going to see if all 54 accept. If they don't, then those people would be on the waiting list. If the 3 spots open up, then they would be the first number 55, 56, 57. We talked a little bit about what we would need to do. It's kind of complicated. We'd have to look into it a little bit more because there are very strict rules about the limits on the classes.
Well, you have to follow the rules, but it sounds as though, I mean, knowing what happens with people's families, in 50 some odd families is not unusual for a few people to have changed their mind, moved away, or it could be any number of things that would happen that would open spots for those 3 families.
And just, if someone were to move into the district, obviously there are not spots available, would they be able to, even though the time period has closed out, would they have that opportunity to put their name on the waiting list since they've moved into the district after they even had the opportunity if they were to have a child?
So when they register the children, or they have other children in the district, if they have a preschool age child, they would be able to put their name on the waiting list. For example, like you said, if somebody moves out partway through the year and there's an opening and somebody's interested. So we may have a few people drop out just because we have the 2 different sites and the 3 classrooms. So the next step in the lottery process is to notify the families. And so the first family that was chosen would get first choice as to location. Once a location fills, then the rest of the people don't get choice. They have, their option is that spot. And if they don't want that location, then they may choose, well, okay, I might drop out or whatever. So that's what's going to happen next.
Okay, great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For the ongoing updates, it's really helpful. And we're all very excited. This was an idea that's was closed out for such a long time, so it's so exciting and so incredible that you pulled it together. So
Yeah, also say that a fantastic job at joining our Department of Health. It's leading the charge and pulled together a couple of months. It's nice. So it's a lot of work. Yeah, it's a lot of work. The RFP process is very involved. That's what Paul is asking. The requirements to be a provider are very stringent, and that's for like we only had one person, one organization respond because the requirements are very stringent, and a number of other pre-K providers said, we just can't meet those criteria. Yeah, so it is a very involved process, very thorough. The curriculum will be coordinated. King Crowley Brown, one of our kindergarten teachers, went out for a meeting, took their curriculum, is evaluating it. We're going to make some suggestions so that it's coordinated, so that they'll get a similar experience, whether they're here or at the community nursery.
There's a huge benefit to the community. First of all, there's $250,000 more in aid coming in from the state every year to support this program. And so that's been fantastic. It increases our enrollment in the school district significantly. So all those things, and most importantly, it gives the children who would not have had an opportunity to have any formal preschool programming an opportunity to do that. And I expect that we're going to see the kindergarten teachers much less having to deal with deficits than they have had to. So it's a small group of our kids, but they're significant for them, and this will help with that a lot.
It's about 40% of the incoming class, so it's a fairly significant number.
Oh, you mentioned
54 students, about 40% of the incoming.
Well, and some of them would have gone to
Yes.
private preschools. Many of them would have gone to private preschools. But those private preschools would have been half-day programs 3 days a week for 4-year-olds, and this is a full-day program 5 days a week. So it has benefits not just for the children who would not have had private preschool, but for all the children who will participate. And I'm delighted to hear that we're very close to being able to accommodate everybody who wanted.
I'm set, thank you. That helps.
Thanks. Ms. Briggs, anything for Dr. Woods? All right. Little or big? Let's start. Let's go with the
Yeah, and what context are we talking here?
Little size, kids, little ones.
Maturity level.
Well, that's a whole different level. Yeah. Mr. Roberts, I think you.
So I wasn't going to say anything, but I just want to say thanks for the kind words regarding graduation. It was special this year to have so many school board members involved in the ceremony. So thank you for those of you involved. I also just want to, and I'm sorry, I just wanted to say thank you. We haven't thanked Suzanne Sudfeld, and I want to thank her again and again and again and again for having her fingers on every component of the ceremony at the end of the year, the entire year. And I'm glad she's on vacation right now, recharging for next year. And I also want to thank Doug and his crew. They did an incredible job recreating the athletic field into a formal graduation ceremony with a stage and obviously the chairs and the backdrop and the canopy to keep us cool and safe under the extreme wind conditions. So fantastic team effort. I think a number of people mentioned that. So thank you. And I do want to say that it took Mr. Russ maybe 5 minutes after the ceremony to already start talking about next year and how he wants to change the look and the appearance of it being outside again, and of course me being someone who likes the formal ceremony inside. We'll be debating that probably for the next 10 to 12 months, and it'll be outside again. So, but thank you, everybody.
Were there limits on the tickets?
In the end, there
that's the difference, obviously.
Yeah, at the end there was not. We were able to accommodate everyone and all of their requests, and I think, Travis, we probably had 50 extra chairs in the end. So it's great.
Thank you. Mr. Moore?
Yeah, I want to echo the thanks. The class of 2021 for me is like, I'm going to miss them. They were fun, exciting, just a great group. And so celebrating graduation with them was fantastic. My only other comment is, so Ms. Liebrock and I are gearing up for Summer Skills Camp, which starts next week. And looking forward to welcoming some high school, middle and high school kids to the high school program. And that'll start next Tuesday. And I think Mr. Liebrock will have some comments about that during his time as well. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Let's make a comment. I want to thank Travis for preparation for summer camp. At the high school, it's very different than it is at the elementary and middle school. A lot of focus on credit recovery. We're doing some skill development, but most on credit recovery. And this year, because of the pandemic, we had a number of circumstances, probably more than typical for sure. And to their credit, Bill as well, they designed a week of credit recovery where they gave kids opportunity at the end of the school year to make up for that lost work. And we got about 90% of the kids to finish up and to leave in good standing to join the graduation. Some of them, yes, because it was a challenging end of the school year. And so it worked incredibly well. And it's a model that we're thinking about continuing to use. We've learned a lot. We've learned a lot of things this year that I think have helped us to improve. I think the pandemic has pushed us to a place where we're not necessarily comfortable. We had to make difficult decisions, things we thought we couldn't do, and then we found out that we were able to do it. And it's a collaborative effort from the board, being incredibly supportive to our teachers, doing incredible work, being flexible and understanding, our support staff, again, just doing a tremendous job. I think Suzanne Sedfeld got, they did this end of the year video for the seniors, and a lot of people talked and thanked them. And when Mrs. Sedfeld came on, she got the most applause of all the teachers and all the staff members, and the kids absolutely love her. And so she's just a wonderful person, and just tireless in her commitment. And then, the administrators, again, like I said in my speech, working 7 days a week, for the last 18 months. So it's been really exhausting, but we've learned a lot, and I think it's helped us to improve in many ways, and also to believe that, we're kind of capable of doing anything that we put our minds to. And so that's one of them. That's one of the things that helped a lot of kids, really turn things around and feel good about the end of the school year. They're ready to come back, and that's a really positive thing. So thank you for your work on that.
Brian, as we move forward, planning for the fall, and I'd be curious to hear what the district's plans are for those children who have not been able to catch up through the summer school program or through that extra week at the end of the school year. There are some, I assume, that are still struggling in one way or another, and who were not able to alleviate those deficits through what we've provided so far. So I'd be curious to hear how we are intending to use some of the federal aid to provide extended day programs, tutoring, and whatever other kinds of counseling is necessary to help and zero right in on those children that still have a deficit that we've been able to identify. So I don't expect an answer tonight, but I would like us to have a time when we can be brought up to date on that as we progress toward reopening school.
If I can just jump in on that, this is Mark. I'm ready. The deadline to post our initial volley of what we're going to use the federal grants for was, one was June 30th, one was July 1st. That is posted on the website at a very high level. Those are amendable plans, but it is the first kind of public approach to that. We can, at the next board meeting, talk about that more in depth, but between this meeting and that, it's our top news story on the website is our initial plan to spend the 1.3 and the 1.7 million, and with the positions that we plan on adding because of it.
I saw that, and I appreciated the fact that you got those done with everything else that had to be done, and you got them done on time. And I did note that you did earmark significant funds for the kinds of things that I'm talking about. So I appreciate that, and I'll look forward to hearing more details about exactly what we're going to do.
And just like to thank Joanne in particular for all the detail that went into actually pushing, finding the numbers and making it work underneath the very restrictive guidelines once again. So the federal government works in its own way, and they gave us a few weeks to pull together a plan to spend $3.1 million in terms of providing additional supports to students. So it can be over a 2 or 3 year process. So a lot of thought had to go into it in a very short period of time. So actually the whole crew, Mark, Cindy, administrators all kind of came together to say, this is what we think we need. But as Mark said, that thank goodness those plans are amendable. And so I think that they're going to be amended because it's just, sometimes the process is somewhat questionable, I guess. But
there's a lot of money there, and so if a child needs individual tutoring, we should be able to do it.
Right. And those are the types of things that we are able to do, and and so I'll talk about that in terms of our reopening plan a little bit. Thank you.
Mr. Brown.
Happy to be here tonight. Nothing to add.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Labra.
Yeah, quickly. Before we get to Mr. Russ, very nice waiting to talk about the 7 days until after Tahani's appointment took place. So good to say that things are official. But speaking of official things, so the state just released new guidance for summer schools today. We still have to unpack this a little bit here. So even though some summer schools actually started earlier this week, the State Department of Health released a notification saying that we can take a look at and start to follow the camp guidelines. So this is what I have here. It's interim guidance for childcare, day camp, and overnight camp programs. So we have to unpack this a little bit, kind of take the camp lingo and see how it applies to schools. But in general, it's looking like they're going away from the requirement of masks. So we'll dissect this a little bit and get some more information out of it, and then we'll see if we can make some moves before we get into camp. And so I just wanted to notify you about that.
Thank you. Happy summer reading to you. Ms. Patrick, what would you like to say anything?
Oh, you didn't know you'd have to do that. It's like, hold on.
I thought there's something going on behind you.
No, I was talking.
Oh, so one more, so just when Ms. Brunson was asking about the students that might need additional support who are coming for credit recovery, or those who might not be able to make it. So at the end of our skills recovery week, we only had about a dozen students left that had not yet earned credit for courses leading to graduation. So we are able to accommodate every single one of those requests this summer for students who would like to. And then as the year gets going, and it's in that plan that Mark mentioned, we've got a lot of additional AIS sections that'll be available to high school. So we're looking forward to meeting every single one of those needs for those kids.
Great.
Yes.
I would absolutely love to say thank you so much for being such a welcoming community. I appreciate the support everyone has already offered, and I'm so looking forward to serving this community. So thank you.
Thank you. Welcome again.
And I will be starting earlier than August 9th.
Sounds like it. Mr. Ray, ready?
Nope, I'm just happy to be here. Just
Thank you very much.
And relating to the fact that Mr. Manfredi is here with his camera, I'm wondering if the board would consider the possibility of no longer taping these meetings. I don't know how you all feel about it, but we never taped meetings before when we were in person. And we encourage people to come and visit the board and sit in the audience. I just think it's a burden administratively that we don't necessarily need to continue, but I don't know how the rest of you feel about it.
Mr. Russ, would we like to have that conversation now, or would we like to have that on an agenda for?
Sure, put it on for another time.
Okay, why don't we do that? Could I ask everyone to please contemplate that topic and come prepared to discuss at the next meeting? I hear you and I agree. Mr. Manfredi has lots of great skills, and maybe his camera work is not the one we should be leaning most heavily on.
Well then.
But let's talk about that at the next meeting, I think. Thank you. Visitors' comments. The Board of Education has received multiple emails from 16 community members related to masking and vaccinations, Dawn Dunkers, our board vacancy, information on how to apply for the vacancy. Thank you for our leadership over the past year, a message on the school lunch program, and a thank you note from a student. Did everyone have an opportunity to review those messages? If not, see me and I'll make sure you've got all of them. But I have a list here if there's any questions. Thank you to all the community members who have reached out to us through our district clerk. Are there any visitors who would like to address the Board of Education this evening? Please state your name and address for our district clerk.
Deneen Cole, 83 Ellicott Road. All right, so I'm just as unprepared this time as I was at the last one. I didn't complete everything, but so I might stumble a little bit, but I'll see if I can get through this. Something was just brought up. The oh, you know what? Before this will probably come up later, but I just so I don't forget. You know, I do hope that if the guidance that just came out today has been interpreted correctly by myself and others, and I've even seen some districts have already sent out a letter about the change to their to the family members who are attending their summer clinics and whatnot, summer schools. You know, it is the district's within the district's ability to choose to be more stringent than the minimal guidelines that are provided in that. And I really, truly, obviously, you all know that I hope that you will give the choice to the families to protect their children as they see fit. All right, so I awaited the July 1st East Aurora Advertiser issue to see if there were any opinion pieces seemingly in answer to mine in the previous issue. and others that had been in the previous issue and even before that issue. I was happy to see that there was an opinion by board member, is it pronounced Malice?
It is, Malice.
As well as an article covering the appointment. I'm happy to be further informed by these two pieces in the advertiser. If I recall correctly, the article regarding the appointment to fill the vacant seat included an interview with Ms. Covert and Mr. Brunson. My biggest take, I apologize if I've forgotten anybody else. Maybe you were also interviewed? I don't know. I apologize if I've forgotten anyone.
For the interviews.
What's that?
All board members were present for all interviews.
No. I mean the interview by the advertiser.
Oh, so sorry. I don't know that
there was.
I was not in the meeting.
Yeah, no, none of us were.
Those were comments. I was quoted from something we may have said in a public
Yeah,
meeting.
they're just
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I missed the quotes in a public meeting then. And I apologize for that. If I recall correctly, the article, my biggest takeaway from the article was the importance for the person filling the vacancy to be able to jump in with minimal training, since the seat will be up for re-election in the spring of 2020, so less than a year. That is absolutely a worthy consideration that I admit I had not thought of before. From the opinion piece by Ms. Malice, there were a few ideas raised on which I'd like to comment. The volunteerism of the board. I do recognize that you are all volunteers in your positions, and I commend you for your sacrifice of personal resources for the good of our community. I am also a volunteer. I served on the board for Parkdale PTO for 3 years, and I am entering my 5th year on the leadership committee for the East Aurora Cub Scout Pack 514 as the membership coordinator. I have spent countless hours working for those organizations, at times to my family's dismay, but I believe in stepping up and in filling my role to the best of my ability. I sincerely apologize that I never attended a Board of Education meeting until there was something that I was unhappy about this year. I always felt a little guilty for not attending these meetings, especially when I held a seat on the PTO board, because I think that, attending these meetings and getting more involved could have assisted me to be an even better board member at that time. But time and circumstances just never seemed to allow my presence here. So yes, once I became unhappy about how my kids and all kids were being disproportionately negatively affected by the COVID mandates of the state of New York, my priorities changed, and now here I am. Unfortunately for you all, the natural place for civic involvement to begin is at the local level, and it doesn't get much more local than your children's school district. So that was one point that was raised by Ms. Malice. The next one was about emotion. I guess that's a good segue for me to get into the emotion issue raised. Yes, my opinion piece in the advertiser, as well as my most recent emails to the board, were most definitely driven by emotion. I honestly would have edited them both to censor a bit of the emotion out, but I was up against a deadline. I've always said that I work best under pressure, but a lot of things are changing as I age, and maybe it's time to reevaluate how much pressure I can put on myself with an impending deadline. But it's very difficult to control my emotions when I see my children being harmed by mandates that ceased to make sense to me months ago. Confidentiality was another point that was raised in that opinion piece by Ms. Malice. Of course, I understand that there are details surrounding issues the board handles that require confidentiality. However, I do believe there are instances where the board may err on the side of being too cautious about which info is confidential. For instance, disclosing the date Mr. Seghetti moved out of East Aurora and when the board became aware of it is not confidential information. If your rules require me to state my address before I speak at this meeting, I should be able to ask about the above dates and reasonably expect the information to be provided. I apologize if that line of questioning is taken with offense by any of you, but I do not subscribe to the idea that, to paraphrase a comment I saw on social media, if we trusted them enough to elect them to office, shouldn't we trust them enough to do their jobs? Please don't take that personally. It's simply that I feel that that is not how a democratic republic works. It's my First Amendment right to raise these questions, and frankly, I feel that the board should have been sensitive to the idea that it would only be natural that these questions would be raised given the timing of the announcement
of the vacancy on the night of the election where 3 people ran for 2 seats. I'd like to echo Ms. Malice's comment at the beginning of this meeting that you received so many applications from talented people, and that you were so impressed with the talent and resources that are out there in our community. Why aren't these people running? Good question, fantastic question. I think the act of putting oneself out there to publicly run for a position speaks volumes to the character of that person seeking that elected position, and qualities that they need to be able to withstand questioning from people like me. That all being said, congratulations to Mr. Cassidy and Mr. Bowers. I do trust that you will serve our community well in your positions, because trust is in fact my default nature, despite all the things that I am currently questioning in our world. Which brings me to comment on Ms. Ohlweiler's comment about having to follow the rules. Yes, it's, I agree. Mr. Russ, you don't have an easy job, right? And none of you do. None of you do. These are very difficult positions, and I'm not qualified to sit in any one of these seats or be in any one of your positions, but I am qualified to sit here and ask questions and raise concerns. Yes, we do have to sometimes follow rules that we don't like, but it's also a very valuable lesson to our kids to demonstrate how to use our First Amendment rights to speak up when we think the rules are unjust and possibly even dangerous. Let's reflect for a minute on how we all got to this point in time right here. March 13th, 2020. Everything closed for 2 weeks to slow the spread so as to not overwhelm hospitals. We all know that turned into more than 2 weeks. I won't waste time documenting those details. Masks. Dr. Fauci at first said that masks aren't necessary because they don't protect the healthy. And if you're not healthy, you shouldn't even be out. You should be staying home. That was the recommendation, stay home. So at first people were asking, should we be wearing masks? Dr. Fauci said no. But then that quickly changed, and the CDC advised that we should, Dr. Fauci and the CDC advised that we should begin wearing masks because of the asymptomatic spread. That asymptomatic spread in and of itself is a controversial topic. Studies have shown there is barely any spread from asymptomatic carriers. When I went for my own COVID test, I was told by the technician that it would probably be negative since I had no nasal congestion. This was, to be fair, this was a rapid test, and those are different than a PCR test. But for the rapid test, I was told by the technician it would probably be negative since I had no nasal congestion. You see, without any nasal congestion, my viral load was going to be too low to be detected by the test. The good news was, according to the technician, if it was too low to be detected by the test, then it was too low for me to pass it on to anybody in my family. So I'm not sure, so to me, that's when I started questioning this idea of asymptomatic spread. Does it never happen? Of course not. Is it prevalent? No. Sorry. Regardless, all of these measures, the masking and the shutdowns, those were never meant to eliminate the virus. They were not even meant to keep everyone from getting sick. And they weren't even meant to prevent deaths. This is a virus. On a basic level, this virus is going to do what it's going to do. It's going to run its course. This is supported by studies which show that across the country, states with mask mandates have had a very similar trajectory with their COVID cases and deaths and everything else to states that, I forget what I just said. States that have mask mandates and states that do not have mask mandates. They're very similar. You can look this up. You can go, you just search comparison of COVID trajectory between states with mask mandates and without. And you will see lots of studies that show that there is no difference. I mean, the difference is minimal. The virus just, it's going to make its way around, regardless of whether we're wearing masks or not. And that goes back to when Fauci originally said, there's no need to wear masks. It's because the size of the virus hasn't changed. The size of the holes in the mask haven't changed. Most people are walking around not wearing the masks properly anyway. My point for that is, all right, this is where I kind of I have a couple things else typed here, but I guess what I want to end in saying is that I think that back from my observations and my self-education on this, what was happening around us in real time, when the vaccine didn't exist and people had no protection, including our elderly and our and people that had a lot of comorbidities. I had no problem having my mask on. I had no problem with the kids. And before the teachers had the option to be vaccinated, I had no problem with all of this. But I definitely saw, as time was going on, I have seen lots of harm in my own children and in stories that I'm sharing with other people and people sharing their stories with me. Now that adults, now that any teacher that wants to be vaccinated can be, and now that any adult that wants to be vaccinated can be, it's time for the government to let us choose. I understand that our children can't be vaccinated under the age of 12, but some of those, my child, I got vaccinated personally. I don't want my son to get vaccinated. I do not feel comfortable yet. This is still emergency use authorization. There is a lot of data out there that is being censored. I almost didn't want to bring that up because I don't want to be labeled a conspiracy theorist, but this isn't just a black and white science versus non-science thing. There's a lot of science out there that when something is new and things are being studied, the government's picking and choosing what they want right now, what they want to tell the public. And if they decide to tell us that our kids have to be vaccinated in order to be in school, my kids will not be coming to school. And there are a lot of people out there that feel the same way. So you're going to lose a lot of attendance. You're going to lose a lot of registered students in the public school systems if that happens. Right now, I'm even on the fence whether I'm going to pull my kids if masks are mandated for September. I'm hoping that what happened today is a good sign that they won't be. But my children are definitely experiencing negative effects from these masks.
Thank you for your input, Mrs. Coleman. Appreciate it very much. And please stay tuned. Obviously, the guidance is late in arriving for summer school, so we're hopeful that things will move more promptly as we look to reopen for the school year. But Mr. Ross and the administrators are sure to follow the guidance, and we'll be talking about it at every board meeting.
I know I may have gone over my time. Can I just say one more thing in closing?
I'm going to ask you to wrap it up in 30 seconds.
Okay. So, darn.
15 seconds.
We do have a lot to do.
I understand.
Help us
I
out
understand.
here.
Yep. No. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. I just, yeah. I mean, the fact that that you haven't received guidance from New York State, and I talked with Mr. Russ about this. I understand I understand that you are all frustrated too, and you're frustrated because the state isn't giving you guidance. I mean, you've been asking for it. You've been asking for the science behind the mandates that they've asked you to follow.
I'm going to suggest if you have more information you'd like to share via email, please do so. And I do suggest these are bigger points that please reach out to the state, because we do wait for the guidance to come from the state. So you can come talk to us anytime, but there's a lot there to unpack that is beyond our control.
All right, I understand.
Thank you. Anything else?
I do. But just so I'm aware, how long is the time limit?
We have not traditionally had time limits, but given we may have to come up with the policy to make sure we set some time limits, because we do have a great deal of business to come before the board, and our meetings tend to go late and we get a little sleepy.
Yes, I completely understand. I don't want to keep anyone late. But
Can
I
you
do.
give a name and address?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Dawn Bona, I live at 283 Greenwood Court.
Thank you, Dawn.
Apologies. So I did send a letter, or excuse me, an email on June 21st, and I know Jackie confirmed that it was sent. So I'm hoping that this is on the list of the letters that you did receive. I think part of what Deneen is saying, and what some of the message has been, is we're looking for more dialogue and transparency here. And as part of that, I didn't receive a response once I sent the email, other than Jackie confirming that it was sent to everyone. So what I would like to do is read those questions, and given it's been about 2 weeks, I'm hoping that there's been time to digest and respond to those questions.
I'd welcome you to go ahead and ask the questions. We will not have dialogue at this point, but we can certainly make sure we take note of them and determine how to address them going forward.
Before I do that, then, is there a policy on how we receive responses when we do have questions for the board?
That is not something that we have in policy. The purpose of the board comments is for you to express your opinions or bring up comments or questions to the board, and the emails certainly. The emails are all read by all of the board members, and then they would go to the administrators as appropriate. Some questions we are not at liberty to answer for a variety of reasons. We do try to keep the public as informed as possible through our meetings, or if there are direct responses that need to be given, we point the individual to the appropriate administrator. So you're welcome to read the questions. I believe we do all have that email, and we can go back and read it again, and superintendent can take it.
I'll read the whole thing, and it will be under whatever time limit we may have. So, dear Board of Education members, and again, this was June 21st, I have some questions regarding the process that the board took to address a vacancy on the board. Your responses can be helpful in assuring the community that the board acted ethically, promptly, with transparency, and with a duty of care in this situation. It is my understanding that Section 2102 of New York State Education Law specifies eligibility for board services as follows. It must be qualified voter of the district. That is, the law requires that the board member must be a resident of the district. So here are my questions. According to the June 10th article of the East Aurora Advertiser, Mr. Seghetti indicated he recently moved to an apartment in Buffalo so that his daughter could attend a private high school there. My question is, when did Mr. Seghetti's move actually occur? 2, according to a statement by Mrs. Cover, Mr. Seghetti notified the board of his resignation on May 1st. Was May 1st the first date the board became aware of Mr. Seghetti's ineligibility to serve due to a change in his residence? 3, a regular board meeting was held on May 5th, nearly 2 weeks in advance of the board elections. What reason did the board have for waiting until May 18th, the same day as board elections, to announce his vacancy? 4, the board announced its plans to appoint a person to fill the vacant seat for the year ahead, rather than hold a special election. Given the timing of the vacancy, what was the reason to pursue an appointment versus a special election? Board vacancies, while rare, do occur. However, the circumstances of timing and timeline have caused the matter to be perplexing. Your explanation can provide helpful detail and transparency to the community. That is the end of my letter. I am disappointed that there's gossip around town, and some people who are in the know do get some transparency. And unfortunately, I haven't had any of you at my dinner table yet to be aware of what the truth is. But I am hoping for more dialogue and transparency in this coming year with new leadership on the board.
Thank you, Isabella. Appreciate your feedback. Right, moving on to reports and board discussion. Joanne, you are up with our financial reports.
Thank you. Our financial reports tonight they go through the end of May. And in our general fund, as of the end of May, we had approximately $8.2 million, which ties to our cash flow. And I'm happy to announce that we should have a problem over the summer with cash flow. As of the end of May, we had spent approximately 80% of our budgeted appropriations, and we had received approximately 90%. We're currently going through the process of closing our books and opening our books and booking all our accruals and preparing for the audit that starts at the end of the month. In our school lunch fund, a snapshot in time, as of the end of May, revenues exceeded expenditures by approximately $29,000. And again, I always like to forewarn the board that that could be a timing issue with revenues being received, but the expenditures not going out yet. So we'll know more once our books are closed for the end of June. In our federal fund, we had received approximately more than 50% of the revenue had come in. And I'm happy to report that throughout the month of June, we also received additional revenues, and the appropriate accounts receivables are being booked for the end. In our capital fund, this year what ran through our capital fund was a $100K capital project, and that is completed. And all the revenues and expenses have been booked. And the other item in our capital fund was the Smart Schools Bond Act. And we still have an outstanding encumbrance of approximately $88,000, which will roll into next year. And once that bill is paid is when I'll start the process of filing to draw the money back for the district. In our TA fund, this is our flow-through fund for payroll. New GASB rules came into effect this year, GASB 84, and I want to thank our treasurer, Julie Nagel. This has been quite a thing to go through, and she's done a fabulous job working with our auditor with cleaning up our TA fund, and along with our auditor, to address GASB 84, we have decided that we're going to keep our TA fund, and on June 30th, we're going to book journal entries to address the new GASB, and then on July 1st, we'll reverse those journal entries to keep tracking payroll the way we always have. The same with our TE fund that is affected by GASB 84. And Ms. Nagel has done a fabulous job. I can't thank her enough for taking this on.
I was going to comment that that's one of those regulations that are just overly cumbersome and just make them do a lot of extra work.
And that's what I have for our financial report tonight. Does anyone have any questions?
I have one question. The $250,000 we received for the preschool, what fund is that going to be coming from? That makes sense.
Yeah.
That'll be easier to track some of the questions Mr. Brunson had.
Correct.
And tie out there.
Yep, that will be an F fund, and going forward with the federal stimulus. Currently, in the year that we're closing, it's in the general fund. Going forward, it's going to be in the federal fund, and that's directed right by the state.
But okay, I understand. stimulus fund went into the general fund. You're gonna move that to the special aid fund. Oh, you just said?
Nope.
Okay, good.
Stimulus
That makes
funds for 2021 was part of our general fund state aid run. And it was accounted for in the general fund. So those will be completely expended as of June 30th. Going forward, for the $3.1 million that we talked about earlier, that's 3 different stimulus grants. Now we're directed to record those in the federal fund.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Clear as mud, I know. Clear as mud, I know, boss.
Let's see. All right, moving on to board committee assignments. Everyone ready? Grab your handy list. Everyone have it in front of them. I thought we could maybe go through, make some notes as people express interest. Just a reminder, we can only have 3 board members on any committee. So if we have a bunch of interest, we'll have to draw straws or something. But please express your interest as we go. So ad hoc, I think that becomes me, doesn't it? Athletic.
I don't think you have a choice.
It just is. Okay, here we go. Athletic Advisory Council. Kim, would you intend to stay on?
I'm going to stay on that, yes.
Wonderful, thank you.
I'll take that one as well.
Great. Any other interest on that committee? We can take one other board member, or we can hold the 2 as we have. All right, 2 it is. Audit Committee, Mr. Brunson, and thank you, Mr. Blowers. I'm glad to hear that you're up for that. Mr. Block and Mr. Cadet.
Yes, and they have expressed an interest in you.
All right, thank you very much. As we go through this, if anyone has knowledge of committees that do involve community members, maybe we can flag those.
The Athletic Advisory Committee,
that one has community members. Okay, audit committee, obviously. Okay, thank you. And then we can look to our new pool of interested parties. Board Policy Committee, that's Kim remaining on it. Joe is interested. And you're laughing at the eager guy.
Oh, we need 3. That's so I forgot. Mary Beth's not on there either. I'll do it.
I also have an interest in that one.
Oh, well, then you take it. Yep. So it's just Kim and Joe.
Or just Kim and Joe. I'm Jess. Budget and Finance Committee, that's currently Dan. We have 2 spaces available on that committee.
Yeah, I'm interested.
Thank you. Mr. Blowers. Anyone else interested in the Budget Finance Committee? We can also hold a space for folks who may be interested in part. I think, but Dan?
We can do it with 2. I mean, but
Okay.
but it would be nice to have a 3rd person.
I mean, I'll do it. It's not my forte.
Well,
No,
I mean,
I
we don't necessarily need. I mean, we have all the expertise around.
Right,
What we need,
yeah,
what we
with all
need
of the
is just
people.
good judgment.
All right.
I mean, you got a
I'll
lot of
offer that.
Yeah, good.
All right, okay.
Kim, why don't we add that one in? Why don't we be you and Kim and I'll be your backup.
Okay.
That sounds
That's what
good.
I'm trying to say.
That sounds great.
Just backup.
Just the board policy committee, is that community member go on that one? I'm assuming no.
No.
I don't believe so.
And what about budget finance committee? I'm assuming no.
I don't believe so, no. Okay. The audit committee, yes, not budget and finance. There may be spin-offs of that. We may want to do community engagement work through the budget and finance committee. There may be opportunities to bring folks in on an as-needed basis. Does that make sense?
The one thing I pointed out about the audit committee and why I'm not raising my hand for that one is that as an employee of one of the banks that we use, I'm not allowed to, because of the 2013 nonprofit revitalization act in New York State. So Doug Crow had been serving on it. I informed him of that, and that's why he no longer serves on that. So I would just point that out as you look for people from the community.
Thank you for that. Mr. Crowe indicated that there may be some different interpretation with that at your employer, so.
Yeah, that was the interpretation that I had gotten through, because we do a lot of board placement through the foundation. Our legal counsel that directly worked with us.
Follow counsel. Thank you. Communications committee, this one involves many community members, so you can continue to look for folks who should be included there. Are there board members who are interested in that committee? This is a very, Joe, this is a great committee. This came out of one of the calls for more community engagement and transparency earlier on in GEA days. I can do that one. Terry, you can do that? Yep. Terry, Joe, and Jess. Great. Curriculum and textbook review committee. Dan, Judy, and Terry, would all three of you like to stay on?
I thought I remembered Kim saying she wanted to be part of that. And I'd be delighted to yield and because you have an interest in particular review of curriculum. All right.
Yeah.
Good. I'm out. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And you're comfortable stepping down from that one? All right, thank you.
And Judy Terry.
And Judy Terry it is.
And that's not a community? I haven't been on it.
Well, it never has been.
No, it never has been, but.
I don't see any particular reason why a community member is committee to discuss curriculum.
Right, that's one thing. All right, we'll give a question mark to that one to see if we can look into that and see if we're allowed or not.
The more we can get the community involved, the better.
Yep.
So-
Well, yeah, and it's, I mean, there's nothing confidential about those issues.
District Facilities Construction Committee, currently Kim, Dan, and Terry.
I'll stay on it. That's another one that's gonna, ramp up this year, right?
Right, the 5-year plan.
If there's room on it, I'd like to be on that.
I was gonna say, you can take my spot if you want, Paul, on that, because I'm on that one, and since I'm just taking the one from Dan, so if you'd like to take that one, that would be great.
I would, yeah.
Okay.
Great, thanks.
Appreciate your expertise
So
there.
Paul, Dan, Terry.
Paul, Dan, Terry. That sounds great.
Am I sure you want to get off it?
Do you want to get off it?
No, I mean, I like that committee, but I mean, I don't want to take it. I mean, we can split it, or, I mean.
Yeah, we can talk about it. I mean,
Okay.
you guys go ahead, because I just added another one too, so, yeah, I've got a bunch happening right now, so I'm good.
You had two more.
Yeah, I've got a.
District Parent Council, currently Terry.
I love that one.
That's a great one. Anyone else?
Is it just one person, or is
It
it
could be, it could be more.
Oh, I would do that one.
Okay.
Well, that's a good one, because you get lunch.
Oh.
Oh, wait a minute.
No hate, though.
Change of priorities.
And that has community, lots of community.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
You always come back with loads of information from us. That's a great one. Health Curriculum Advisory Committee, that was Judy and me.
That's also,
Yep.
and that must be able to have community.
That is required to have community members.
But that's just two people then.
Yep, is there anyone else who is interested?
No, I'm doing that one. Kim's doing that one.
I have a ton, so you do that one.
Are you sure you just said you wanted to do it?
No, because no one was saying. Go ahead if you want. We can talk. Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
Kim, Judy, Terry.
No,
Just
you
Judy, Terry.
are not required to, if you were particularly interested.
Yeah, no, I'm actually interested in that.
Then I want you to do it. Kim has that one. I think that I feel like you to be on it.
All right.
They have nothing
But
but
some
me.
of them are slightly different, like the health advisory. Curriculum will probably be a little busier this year as we work on the
Right.
program.
Right,
You know what I
which
mean?
is why I like to.
So they do ebb and flow, like the district facilities committee will ramp up like in the late part of the year. So it does, so we can make adjustments. Not too much.
Everybody speak up as we move along. If it's overwhelming or you're missing out on something, we'll talk
Yeah,
through it.
if anyone wants one-on-one side picks, please speak up, because I am looking down and I see that I somehow put myself on a lot of committees. So
We're not done yet.
I'm gonna keep track of my phone.
Good job.
Smart Schools Bond Act, Dan and Judy are on
Yeah,
that.
I'm not sure that even exists anymore.
Do we need
No,
to
I
do
don't
we
think
need that?
so. I think we have
Do we have to have
one
one
last
closing
year.
that one?
Is there any reason for it anymore?
Nope.
Smart
That was
Schools
an
Bond Act
ad
is
hoc
on.
committee to
Right,
prepare the
because we had
preparation for
to.
that.
Fine with me.
All right, that's fine.
I'm gone.
Safety Committee, Kim, Judy, and Terry.
I'll stay on there.
I'll say on that. I like that. And that's just, that meets just a couple times a year.
Right,
Not
3 times a
just
year.
every year.
So
And
we
that
have-
one includes parents as
Right.
well. That's
Yeah.
also okay.
That is a term. Yeah.
Gentlemen, you okay with? I'll check with you. Sustainability Committee, Dan, Judy, and Terry again.
Yes.
That did not meet at all last year.
Okay.
No, but we want to crank it back up.
It's gonna wrap, yeah.
They just went through like
It was brand new.
Yeah, and they went through that whole planting of new
Right.
trees and stuff,
Right.
so they've got some new ideas, so sure
Okay.
for this year.
And that one's students, teachers, and the whole nines of community members are on that one as well. Transportation Committee, this is gonna go.
That's another one.
Yeah.
Is it still viable?
That was an ad hoc committee too,
Yeah,
I
that's
think.
right, yeah.
It isn't, is it? No.
No,
Okay.
that one out.
The Visitation Committee, Judy has been coordinating, and we have, good job, Space on the
Exhibit this year.
Yes, the Visitation Committee is the one committee that all board members who are available tend to participate in. So Judy kindly coordinates, and everyone is welcome to attend the school visitations if it fits with your schedule.
It's one you don't want to miss.
No, also, it's
Exactly.
awesome.
So if anyone else would like to participate on the committee and part of the coordination effort, that's welcome.
Yeah. You guys, when you kind of know your parent-teacher conferences, that kind of thing, I try to work around that so that you're not kids. So this is us visiting when you're trying to do stuff that's important for families and kids.
The county state items, Terry is currently the ECASB delegate assembly representative.
Does anyone else want to do that?
Why are you laughing? Two board members don't laugh. Gentlemen?
Which one are we on?
Erie County Association of School Boards. So we have 3 options. I don't remember
I'm not
always,
laughing at that, am I?
always being part of the Budget Finance Committee, but there's ECASB delegate assembly representative, there's the ECASB legislative team representative, and John was our ECASB budget and finance team representative.
They already reached out to me indirectly. They want me to make a presentation to the board members on the area regarding from business manager to board member.
What?
So I asked them where we're going to be, and they said it'll be at the Erie One facility. I go, a topic like that, you got to be the key bank center. I'm sure it'll be fine. Anyway, I'm willing to.
How many
I'm willing
seats
to
do you
do
need,
some.
Paul?
What's that?
I said, how many seats do you need?
Oh my God, who would show up to that? But anyway, they asked me if I would do that.
That's great.
I'm willing to help out with some of the Erie One. I don't know where you'd like to place me on.
Probably the third one.
How about budget and
Did we-
finance?
Dan,
Which one?
Dan, did
Budget and finance.
we typically have someone on budget
I'm
and
not
finance,
willing
or
to
is that a
help out.
specific request?
Well, let me tell you something about the budget finance one. That's their budget.
Right,
So in other words, they're not gonna talk about school budgets or school financing. What they talk about is the X number of $1,000s that they collect in dues and how they're gonna spend it.
so we don't need to use our resources for that necessarily?
Frankly, I think it's, if you're really interested in that kind of thing,
I
I
know,
suppose it wouldn't hurt for us to keep an eye on how they're spending our $8,000. But in my view, they can muddle along without it.
Okay. I will remove John from that one and suggest that, Paul, if you have a lot of spare time and would like to share your talents, they're great, but I think the legislative team or delegate assembly would.
I have a lot of spare time. They changed the meeting date for the audit committee 25 times, and my calendar is open all 25 times.
I can say that I was a very lax legislative team member. If you have any interest in either the delegate assembly or the legislative team, those would be great resources.
And those are worth what? Those two.
I would take myself off the legislative team.
There's a wide open space on the legislative team for ECSB. Do you have an interest in that one?
Yeah, sure. That's a good one, Paul. They talk about issues in governmental issues relating to schools and how the school boards can act as to help influence legislation, or they can also help you keep up to date on what legislation is pending. So that one's worth one.
It's both the legislative team and delegate assembly have one thing going for them really strongly. You get together with school board members from other districts, and you do roundtables at each of them to hear what their issues are and what's going on, and it gives you that, oh wow, we're really lucky we don't have that, and oh wow, we got to watch out, that might be coming. So the conversation at the table, aside from the topics, can be very helpful. They can be very interesting that way. Personally, I didn't care for the way ECSB was running the meetings during the pandemic, but that was my own problem. Now that we're further along, I think that we're in better shape.
So Joe, do you want to do the delegate assembly or do you not?
I'll do it.
How often, what's the time?
It's 3 times a year. It's usually the first Thursday in September, the first week of school in September. It's in April, and then it's in January.
I did that one my first handful of years before switching to the legislative assembly, and it was good. I did appreciate getting to talk to the other board members and hear what issues they were facing.
The round robin is you have to speak for 60 seconds at the end of the meeting, and you talk about things that are in your district. We actually do get a lot of information from other districts. You can back and you share it with us.
That's worth hearing.
That's definitely, yeah. So if there's a night you can't make it, let me know, and I will try to run your place.
I think there's 3.
There's 3. 3 that you're going to.
Erie 2 BOCES. Dan, you are listed as our Erie 2.
Yeah, I can continue that. Sure.
Great, thank you. We need a voting delegate for NISBA.
And the convention's in New York City, so normally to vote, you have to vote. In order to vote, you have to go to the convention. We haven't sent someone to, there was no convention last year. And when the convention is in Buffalo or in Rochester, a few of us usually go.
Yep.
And sometimes we've had the whole board go when it's in Buffalo because it's not hardly costs anything to go. But this is New York City. So I think we ought to consider sending a representative, or 2 if we have the money to do it. But that person would become the voting delegate for the annual meeting.
Do we have dates for that?
It's October 22nd.
Yeah, I think it's already on your, it's on your agenda, I think.
The 24th or 26th.
I do know the last time it was in New York City, some of us paid our own way.
Yeah, we did.
Down there to
The district paid for the district.
That's another option.
Right.
That's a great option.
That's-
That's, I've made a policy, whenever I've gone to any school board training, to pay my own way. And I think it's respectful of the community and the taxpayers, and yet at the same time gets you to the event in a way that's efficient.
Or maybe one of us can figure out how to be the voting delegate.
Do we need to do that one tonight, Jackie?
You have to submit it.
Yeah.
I can't.
I can, oh, I can change it. All right, why don't you put me on there, and if I can't do it, we'll figure it out.
I do have to
Go ahead.
expand my earlier remark. I don't think a board member should have to pay their own way for that sort of thing. So to be a member of the board should not mean you have to reach into your pocket and come up with hundreds of dollars. If an individual board member chooses to do that, that's great. It's, but I don't think there should be any stigma associated with the board member being reimbursed for normal expenses associated with this kind of training.
Maybe what we should do is at our next board meeting, talk about the expense and whether the board is going to cover the expense.
We'll look at the budget
sending
and see.
folks,
Sure.
And then we can go from there, because we should decide whether or not we can afford it.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's also the summer law conference.
Yeah.
It's 2 days this year in August. it's virtual. That I would highly recommend you.
I think it's July 22nd. Are you talking about the?
It's coming up quick.
Well, there's two of them. One is the Erie County one, and the other one is the state.
Is the Erie County?
Well, the Western New York Law Conference is in August.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to. That's 2 days virtual.
They're all at the end of our agenda. Could I ask everyone to look those over, and could we all come back with our interest or lack of interest at our morning meeting on July 13th?
Yeah, because some of these I think you need to sign up. So if you want to do the virtual one, like for example, if you want to go July 15th, the Rochester one, it's live. Because I'm either going to do that or do the 2 half-day virtual ones July. So we need.
So,
Okay, so do we just need to email Sue and let them know that we want to do it?
If anyone is interested in the July 15th or July 15th Rochester, in-person in Rochester Law Conference, or the 2-day virtual July 22nd or 23rd, please email Sue Kramer.
And we'll look into the cost of the convention and that information for you at the next board meeting.
Okay, thank you. Last one on the committees. Thank you all for hanging in there. You all want to get up and spin around a little bit? There we go. The New York State Association of School Boards Legislative Liaison, and you good with, I don't even know what that is.
I'll keep it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or queries?
So is this posted somewhere so people know?
the New York State School, you mean?
No, just,
All
no,
this?
just the community assignments and stuff.
I can put it online. I can put it in the board page.
Sure.
Yes, for volunteers.
Jackie, we can go through it after this
Yeah,
chicken scratch is pretty.
Sure.
Thank you all. Moving on to item C, board administrative retreat.
So in the past, we've had a board administrative retreat on a variety of topics. And we haven't been able to have one. We tried to schedule one, the existing work out. And so I don't know what the board's interest in having a retreat is. There's a few ideas for topics, but we can talk about it as well. Is it something that the board would be interested in doing?
Having gone to the retreats, I've found all of them to be extremely helpful. So I enjoyed them. I thought they were an excellent learning experience and also a chance for just sort of a different environment and talk about different issues that. So I do think it's a very work. It's a lot of work, obviously, for whoever is putting it together. So we need to recognize that, but I do think it's a worthwhile endeavor.
I agree. I think Mark did a terrific job of organizing the last few. They're memorable. There are very few training programs you go to that are memorable.
Absolutely.
I think with having 2 board members, it would be a good idea to do this. I know that the last one that we were supposed to do that kept getting changed and changed and changed. We still have all that information. It's all planned out. I don't know if it's. So it's something that, I mean, Jerome, Mark, and I have planned this.
Judy, right? We had a retreat committee.
So retreat committee.
Was it the 2 of you? Or definitely the 2 of you,
Jerome and yourself.
maybe Bill. Bill.
Oh, I think.
Oh, I think you were. Oh, no, you were there. So, and again, when we get to that planning, if a third person wants to, oh, thank you, I did.
If Bill's on the committee, maybe we could have a retreat out.
On the turf field. Yeah, it was funny, we were gonna talk about so this was 2 years ago, and we were gonna talk about what's education gonna look like 10 years in the future, and what unknowns are gonna come down that we need to be prepared for. So we had this beautiful retreat planned, and then there was a snow day the first time, and then a pandemic day the next time. But our crystal ball, it was a great topic of what's education going to look like in the future. We talked about one-to-one devices. We talked about virtual learning. We talked about all of these things that ultimately, yeah.
You know what
So.
would be great to add to that? That's already in the making, but it would be great to take a look at what came out of this virtual teaching.
Yep.
That's valuable and useful that we can hang on to, and what will we let go of?
And not just teaching. We did an activity I did with the teacher leaders, my DCIC team, of what do we stop, what do we get back to, what do we need to start doing, and what do we need to keep doing. And it was an exercise that we round robin that, and it was very valuable. So that data could come into this conversation from the teacher's end.
Yeah.
What are those things that start, stop, keep, and begin? Yeah.
There's going to be good things. You know, with any crisis, there's something good that comes out of it.
If not, you waste the crisis, right?
Exactly. A waste of good crisis.
You know, we also talked a little bit about social emotional learning and informed instruction. And maybe we could just update the board on what that looks like. How are we working with our students? Also, I think the adults too. I mean, it's mental health of our employees is just as important, and they've taken a lot on and have experienced a lot of difficulties and challenges, and so they are also experiencing certain issues. So I think that could be a component of it, kind of a combination of what you're suggesting, Judy. What happened, what are the takeaways? As Mark suggested, how do we move forward with that, and where are we going from here? And what are some of the things that we found valuable as we've gone through the process? And I think that's the next piece that we have to be aware of. I don't know when we schedule it. I think over the summer it's going to be really difficult. Like just trying to schedule meetings. Like we were saying, it's just the schedule is very tight. And so maybe early fall though, maybe October before we get into the meat of it and budget season and things like that. Maybe mid to late October might be a sweet spot.
We've done October and November in the past.
Mhm.
It seems to work before we get into snow and holidays.
Thank you.
It seems like that's like still getting into the start of the school year and waiting the weather, waiting the budget, those kinds of things. So why don't we look for some dates and I'll share with the board and then we can set that up. Yep.
That sounds great. Thank you. Item D, update on the progress toward reopening schools full time.
Yeah, and so we talk a little bit about summer school, like Mr. Limemark said. We get that information today, and we're planning to start summer school on
Tuesday.
Tuesday, yes, and Tuesday. So like you said, we're fortunate because summer schools already started, and so that's some good news. Though it looks like, we just glanced at it today, but it does look like it's some good news that we're moving in the right direction, and masks may be something that we can step away from, which I think is a positive thing for all of us. So again, I think, do you have any other comments on summer school? I think things are ready to go. Any other thoughts?
100 kids will be starting on Tuesday.
Yeah. Is that K-12? Yeah, very good. So a lot of effort. I think we were a little bit surprised by the number of parents who chose not to participate. So we put the offer out to a lot of people, and a lot of people's response is, we're just going to take it easy. We'll do some work at home this summer, but we need some time to rest and kind of recuperate and spend time together and be able to go out and enjoy the summer and do those kinds of things. So we appreciate that, but we do have 100 students who are willing to come. Even some of the high school students, which are coming just for skill development, which is really great. It's unusual. They usually come when they have to, but they're usually not willing to volunteer. So having some high school students come is a really positive thing. Again, thanks to both Matt and Travis, who worked really hard to pull all together, get all the staff in place, all the support staff, the elements that are what we say non-hardcore academics. We're going to do some arts and some phys ed and some STEAM work, which will be a little bit more enjoyable, some time for kids to kind of take some walking field trips and those kinds of things. So very appreciative of all the coordination. I think it's going to be a good program for everyone. So yeah, then opening school, we were waiting for the state for some guidance. It was supposed to be out the first week of May. Now we're into,
We're into the later parts of early May.
Yeah.
That's what the state's telling us.
So here we are in the middle of July, and still no word from the state. So we were just moving forward, based on what we know now. That's our intention is to open up school full time, K-12. The mask issue is still out there. We don't know. It's kind of promising that they're allowing the summer schools to take their masks off. So that's a good news. Where that's going to go, I don't know, or what they're going to say in terms of opening school. We'll have to see. We continue to advocate from the superintendent's position. We send correspondence to the state. We send correspondence to the governor's Governor's Office, State Education Department, DOH, to get them to continue to look at the data and evaluate it so that we can provide some relief for our kids and our staff. Especially, I think one thing that's positive in the state of New York is the high vaccination rate. That does bode well in terms of moving in a more positive direction. So, my fingers crossed, you know, we're just going to sit and wait and see what happens. So,
today's email, it did say the guidance for 21, 22 school year would be out soon.
Thank you.
Early May.
And when we think
The
about
later
it, say
parts of early May.
about 7 weeks away, 7 weeks away. So it's hard to believe that we're going to be starting school in 7 weeks, but we are. And so really hoping that it comes through relatively quickly.
So we're moving ahead planning as though we were opening school full-time, 5 days a week, regular sized classrooms, regular classes, everything reasonably back to normal. A few issues still to be resolved. But can you give me an idea about the largest class sizes at the elementary level? I mean,
Yeah, you know what, Jessica could probably comment on that. You know, we really have pushed hard for like six sections across each grade level, and we're basically there. Jessica, can you give us an idea of what they look like?
Yeah, our largest are probably 22 or 23. The ones, we had a couple in 3rd grade that are moving up to 4th grade, 22 or 23. Our incoming kindergarten right now is about 21, 22. So yeah, anywhere, and our lowest are 3rd, because we did add the extra section. So there's 6 across the board right now. So our lowest section is about, I think it's at 18. So anywhere from 18 to 23.
18 to 22. That's good. I appreciate that. We don't want to get back to those crowded grade levels and I appreciate also the idea of stabilizing at 6 teachers at grade level. Apparently 6 teachers at grade level works for us, and 18 is good, 22 or 23 is good. It helps the teachers too, because they don't have to worry that each year, what grade level am I going to be teaching next year? So, you know, now some of them may want to change or may be advised to change by their principal, but I wouldn't be opposed to any of that. But I do think that having a stable number of people at each grade level allows for some continuity and what we need for the next couple of years is as much stability as possible, as much normalcy as possible. So that will help.
Just to put some comments out about what you were talking about earlier, like what kind of programs are we going to put in place for our students next year. We went through with the federal grants that allows us over the next 2 to 3 years to provide additional services, and those would be remedial, those would be mental health services. So we're looking at additional social workers, psychologists, behavioral specialists, remedial specialists in reading, specialists in math. So all those types of supports will be put in place based on the needs of the students. So, you know, as we're evaluating where we're coming from and we have an idea of those students who are at most at risk, we'll provide those, and then we'll kind of build it as we move forward. And we'll evaluate that. It'll ebb and flow. Hopefully over the next 2 years, we'll see, a diminishing need, and that would be a positive thing.
Are you looking at tutoring as well?
Yeah, that's a possibility. Yes, it is.
I've been reading some research lately about the effectiveness of one-on-one tutoring, and it really accomplishes an awful lot.
Yeah, we've used tutoring in the past for various students, even prior to the pandemic. Again, just based on needs of the students, availability, all those types of things. Sometimes private tutoring does work. Yeah.
Brian, are you still thinking about the behavioral specialist?
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't say that. Yep, sorry about that. No. Yep. Behavioral specialist is also on the list.
So Brian, you're talking about things that you mentioned at the last June 9th meeting, the money that was going to, you gave us a cheat sheet, and the money that was going to be used for the CRRSAA.
Yes.
And then you hadn't yet at that time decided what you tentatively were going to put for the ARP grant.
Right.
Could you, when you have that, send us a cheat sheet
We-
that tells us the category, the description? The
Yep,
year,
we do have it. That's the document that I referred to earlier that's posted online, but I will email it to you tomorrow as well. So it's the same cheat sheet. It's a high-level cheat sheet. So but yes, it'll be the same thing, but spends the full 3.1 million, and that's right on the front page of the website as well. But I'll email you that as a document tomorrow.
The ARP, we had discussed that was going to be mainly for the social and emotional needs of the students.
Yep.
Where the other one was for the
Yep.
tutors. We had tutors on there and the behavioral.
And you will see we did a little bit of a dipsy doodle because we had to meet quotas. So all of that stuff is still on there. Some of it we had to move from one to the other to balance out some quotas that we had. So if you look at the whole sheet, it's still a one-page sheet, but it'll give you a really nice overview where it is. Yeah, and then I'll email that to you tomorrow as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
So that's basically what we did. And again, as Mark's saying, is that like Joanne was trying to fit into the formula, and it's pretty complicated. So we had to move some of the positions back and forth to make sure that they could check it off the list. But the mental health, the social emotional wellness stuff came in the second grant primarily, and then they shipped it back and forth to make sure that they met the requirements of the grants. And then again, that is something that can change. So we'll evaluate it, every year or every 6 months, we'll be seeing what progress our students are making and how we need to make those adjustments.
Thank you. At the end of the day, do you feel the grants are covering the needs that you're currently seeing?
Yes, I would say yes. 3.1 million is a significant amount of money, especially for us because we rarely get federal funding for those types of programs. So yes, I think the challenge is by asking us to do it so quickly is really saying, okay, how are these positions going to be infused into the current system to make them the most effective that they possibly can be. So some of that planning is going to ebb and flow initially, but it's a great thing, right? It's a great thing to have. It's just monitoring and adjusting as we're going along.
Brian, like you said, you can adjust it as we go along. It's not what we've submitted isn't.
Correct.
So it's the idea. So what it does is Mark was saying, it kind of gives you a really broad view of the needs of our students, and then it's going to really come down to refining it so that they can target specific groups or specific students individually. And again, that will ebb and flow and change as we go through the process. And like I said, we see it's either making progress or not. We'll shift the resources to meet their needs.
Any other questions? Yes, Joe.
Brian?
Then.
You mentioned the superintendent's sending the communications advocating for constant review of the guidelines. Are those, do we make those available on our website anywhere? I know I came across one that was maybe February or March. I don't know where I found it.
They should be up on the COVID-19 page, so I can double check that. Sure, I've shared that with parents. I'm speaking with parents individually too, so I have shared that information, but I thought it would be on the COVID-19 page. We can double check and make sure that they're there. Because we've sent out correspondence to the Director of State Ed, the Governor's Office, the DOH, asking them to evaluate data. So I can certainly share that. So that was important. I think.
You share. I think you shared them with the board, but if we can post them, if they're
just make sure.
shareable, that would be good. Thanks. Mr. Roberts?
Mr. Brooks' question down the road of high school. I just want to recognize that Mr. Moore see less stress in space this month compared to last month because he has completed the grueling step in the creation during the day at high school. So that was completed last week, the week before, and the counselors are at conflicts, but the individual conflicts, but the initial results are very promising. So just wanted to let you know that.
Bill, can now be relieved from me stopping in his office every 15 minutes to say, Bill, how do I do this?
It is so wonderful to hear because, as you know, 3 of my girls got through it. One, my oldest daughter, that had the period day available, and then it kept, becoming shorter and shorter. So I am so thrilled to hear that because, opens up the schedule and opens up the opportunities for our high school students. So I just think that's wonderful.
And I'll tell you, I was amazed how far back I had to go like that.
What year was it?
Was 4?
Yeah.
14.
Yeah. Alana graduated in 2014.
And Asa
Right, yeah, no, so Alana was participating when it was main period day, and then it, you know, not 16 years in the name, but never again. So it's crazy, and so I'm just thrilled to hear that. I think that's true. Thank you so much.
So Travis, the early period that they currently had this past year, will that then become period 1?
Yes.
So everyone goes in.
Everyone
period
goes in period 1. Activity period will be moved in front of that. So everybody will come in, they'll have that activity period experience.
So will they not have word period anymore? Is awkward period gone?
So that'll be gone. And the other thing we're going to do, we found again, just cross-referencing what we did during the pandemic that would carry over. We're going to continue to consolidate our homework into first period. And what that does is it adds a few more minutes into activity period, which is very valuable, and also gives us a few more minutes for our morning announcements.
Activity period for clubs and things that.
Right, and then remember that teacher-student interaction with that thing stuff this year. So
Does it affect transportation?
We're working with transportation as of yesterday, and it should. It'll go back to the exact same way as it was in 14, where all of our students will be on that first run, the middle school run, and then the end of the day, you're taking 2 minutes. It's the exact same as it has been. So should be seamless.
Will we know with our students?
Sure. Right.
Parkville run will be just Parkville.
Yes.
And it will overcrowd the other run.
Should not. Again, we're working with tomorrow.
So with the high school students not there, that makes some room for the UPK.
Shuttle.
Yes, so there's a shuttle, and there would be a shuttle.
And the middle school will still do the same thing. They'll go to the high school first. The high school students then go to the middle school. Thank you for all your efforts. It just shows how long it takes to recover from rough times. This is the big one. Congrats.
It's huge. And I think a lot of people that maybe weren't in the district or have children in the district do not fully appreciate what the district went through. The GEA, so I am absolutely. I think it's wonderful for us. And I think it's creative thinking because you're going to do something that those who have been hungry for years to come. Modified 8-period day was a brilliant idea and a great solution to really tough times, but I'll break it back to some semblance of normalcy.
Yeah, I know, just again, because the end of the year was really busy, and so, you know, the school was working on the schedule, they didn't have as much time, and so Bill said to me, you know, we're just kind of getting started, so I thought, oh boy, we're really for a long run here. But Travis, I don't know, somehow pulled it together last week.
That's like Sudoku. You just gotta.
I was shocked when we met the captain this week that they said it was done, not done, but it's done on the first stage. So congratulations to you. Yeah, well done.
Well, one thing it really does help students get that extra elective that they really want to take. And some of them, it's the reason they come to school, you know, because they're so excited about that elective. So it's.
Well, like as people were saying, my children went through the same thing, and my youngest, you know, sophomore college, going into his junior year. His last year, he wanted to take like an accounting course and anatomy. He wasn't sure what area he wanted to study, so he just couldn't have, right? Because that so many conflicts built into the old schedule, it was really hard. That extra period, believe it or not, really adds a lot of flexibility to the schedule. But it allows, you know, students to try things out, as you're saying, Dan. I think I may be interested, or if that's something I'm really interested in. I just like it. It's fun. It's and so I think that's the great part of the 8th grade day. Plus, just the continuity of coming in together, starting the day together, homeworks together, and the activity period in the morning is great because it's in clubs. They can take their teachers and like you said, building in. There's another thing that came out of this, building in homework in the first period. It saves time. It's all good. Well done, thank you.
But they don't want to, they're not going to have to sleep in.
all the other ones that were enjoying coming to school. Not anymore, so. Let me see. Anybody else, anything on school reopening? That's about it.
We have item E, the board calendar. So we have, this is in our consensus item. We quickly run through our proposed meeting dates and talk about any that we conflict. So we have the next meeting in July 13th at 7:30 in the morning. We currently have a proposed August 23rd meeting, Monday. There's some requests to move that back to Wednesday, the 25th. Yes. We're going to August 25th. Does that work? Does that work for everyone?
Well, I thought we went to the 23rd because you couldn't make it.
Yeah, no, yeah, we're gonna just rearrange it. Because some of the board members.
Some of the board members couldn't make it.
Okay.
Okay. The September 22nd, I have a conflict. Is there any chance anyone could do the 23rd, Thursday the 23rd, or Wednesday the 29th, or if I'm the only person with a conflict, we can leave it as it is. I thought you never were going to have conflicts. I'm sorry, I'll move the meeting.
Just go with the Wednesday.
Go Wednesday the 29th. Brian, would that work in your schedule?
But then that's is that a really long time because we have the, what do we have again, August 25th, and then our next meeting is school be.
What about the 15th?
Does that seem too?
I think when we go earlier, I think it's usually a little early for our administrators.
Oh, all right.
It just can't be the opening day. It just can't be the opening day of school, which it has been.
We don't start until the 2nd.
Oh, all right.
Yes.
So it'd be fine to do it the 29th.
I think so.
If anything comes up, we can always do a special meeting.
Sure.
Well, you can send us an update by email on how the opening went, that we don't have to necessarily be here.
I find the further we go, the more we hear about how it actually. Any other members with issues privately relative?
January 19th.
January 19th. Okay. Okay. So October 20th is okay. November 17th is okay. I'm running through the list. If you're not okay, holler. We're in December 15th, okay? And January 19th, I have one request to move.
Sorry, what was the November one? I'm sorry.
17th. Oh, yeah, it's buried on page 7. There's a lot in there.
So change to January 19th.
January 19th.
Either the 12th or the 26th.
26th will be a conflict for me.
12th?
12th is winter. No, that does not, that yet might be. January 12th. Yep, go ahead, Brian. How is that week, the whole week, bad for you?
The 14th to the 21st.
Okay. What's the preference? Oh, you're still getting there, right? Oh, that's okay. Why did we say no to the 12th of January? Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
December meetings on the 15th,
Yes.
so we could do the 5th. Yeah.
Could you do the 11th, 18th of Tuesday?
The 11th.
Or the 18th maybe would be better. Just thinking of what that would be closer to month away, because what happens is we'll start getting budget information, so sometimes we have a later January meeting that's a little bit more helpful. I don't know, if we want to wait till the 26th.
Well, I thought we were gonna try to stay away from anything on Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Wednesdays or Thursdays if we
So
can't
do
do.
it earlier, do you want to do Wednesday, the 26th of January? That's all. Oh, there is.
So the 27th, the Thursday. Game for the Thursday, the 27th, or that's so with that. Thursday, the 27th?
We'll just leave it at 19. Okay.
Oh, because you're back on the 21st.
Okay, 21st.
That work for everyone, Thursday, the 27th of January? Sure.
Okay. Okay, moving on to February. We have the 16th. Everyone good with that? Okay, is that so? Is free.
And the next week's break, break week is the week between the so that's right.
Late this year.
Yeah.
Hearing no problem, we're moving on to March 9th. Good. Okay, March 23rd. Got my usual Wednesday conflict. So the 24th, the Thursday, or the 30th are good for me. What works best for budget season and board members? 23rd is going to be tough for me. Okay. So 24th or 30th?
Just keep it the 23rd over for
Either the 24th or 30th, or
doesn't matter. So no, just keep it the 23rd.
okay.
The 23rd is more for you, Jessica. Yeah.
Or you.
Yeah, right. So maybe I would suggest that we don't go to the 30th because that's the heart of the budget season. So sometimes we're scheduling additional meetings. So we could do the 24th, the Thursday, the 24th. I know we.
Just keep it the 23rd, Brian, because I was the only one who could make it.
No, we can't make it.
And the 16th, the week before, the 17th, is that too early?
Yeah.
That's also spring break.
Yeah, it's spring break.
Or is it?
No,
Maybe
no.
now it's not spring break.
We're going every other week. We're gonna go like from the 16th to the 9th to the 23rd to the 6th. But sometimes we use the 30th. So as an extra, just
Right, if we need it.
So I would suggest we try to keep it that week of the 21st. So if we could do the 24th.
The 24th work for the rest. Good. 24th.
Okay.
Possible 30th. April 6th. Good. Anyone?
Wait,
April 6th.
great.
That would be the break is.
The 10th through the 16th.
Yeah, I'm away.
I mean, if I'm the only person, I can.
If we can, I think if we, in those budget weeks, if we can move it by a day, we probably can, but otherwise we might have trouble.
Right. So this is maybe gone now.
So the break is the week of 10th, right?
Yep.
11th.
Should we stick with the 6th, that being for dial in or catching up? Anyone else? Okay. April 20th? Good. Yep.
And then we could put that to the 21st.
I'm okay.
Okay. April 21st. Recognize that we're messing with administrator schedules here and I probably have scheduled Wednesdays as board meeting days.
Yeah, that's fair.
From my perspective, if you cannot be here on a Thursday, you cannot be here on a Thursday. We're not going to mess with your family lives because we're messing with our family lives. So, somebody's got to have a life, so. What we said, of course, talk to your phone. Speaking out of turn. My opinion only, one human. So we do April 21st, May 4th. Our public hearing, is that good? Okay. May 17th, we're not touching that one. Yep. June 8th. And July 13th.
I think we're gonna move that to the 6th.
Okay.
Yeah.
July
We're
6th.
gonna move that to the 6th, just, try to get as quickly as possible. Just do, you know, it's close to the holidays, that's not pretty much. Yeah, do you want to keep it at 13?
It's the same week as this week.
Right.
But if you want to keep it at 13, you can. Only up to you.
We'd always end up around the 4th of July, is where it lands usually.
Yeah.
If we can't all be there, we can't all be there, I think.
Get put on more.
Right. North, southern, so, we have chicken scratch all over this. Can we leave the updated calendar in the consensus items and approve the updated calendar?
Email us the email us the updated calendar. Of course.
You and Brian, you check.
I would also encourage the district to research the possibility of board members attending virtually who are unable to attend in person. It's always been permissive legislation that allowed for that, but there's a difference of opinion as to what the requirements are associated. So I think we should do some research and find out what the actual requirements are. And since we have these big screens everywhere, I'm looking around the room and I can't believe this is from the only room in the district that does have one.
This one's is on wheels. We just moved it today. Yeah.
So we should be advanced enough technologically for an individual board member who cannot be here in person for whatever reason to be able to attend virtually.
Thanks, Dan. I think that's a good idea. It's a great idea.
Yes.
Bill, I was gonna say, Jen, if you could send that to us to give a deadline for the school calendar. And we're setting concert dates by Friday, so do that.
Yeah.
Have you already started setting it?
We'll finish it tonight, so I didn't.
We anticipated that. How's the experience? Dates that.
You can't see into places at once. You just have to pick your favorite.
Be assured they'll change it again.
Any other calendar concerns? Thank you all. Thank you for your patience. Item 9, is there any legislation to come before the board?
No.
Sorry.
No, just try to. No, go ahead.
No legislation. Item 10, consensus items. Is there any board member who wishes to withdraw a consensus item?
We talked about one item, but I was drawing it.
Sure. Do we do our motion? The motion
Well, we could do a motion to approve it, get a second, and then have.
So anything to be removed? No. Okay. Then may I have a motion to approve the consensus item?
So
Moved by Dan. Second? Okay. Second by Tim. Discussion.
Right under the finance, under substitute teacher pay rates.
If you give a letter, please, there are a million.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the rates and stuff like that. It's changed. I mean, it seemed like it's really fair. I didn't know how it's working out with the change in rates like this and different steps. And
page 7, item K.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. 7K.
Yeah, all it's, we always have a crazy year this year. Permanent and substitutes were hard to find. But I think what we found is that pay raise is much more competitive with other schools in our area. I think we're pretty much on par and ahead of some now. In regard to substitutes are always probably happening for years now that we're in our district. So we're thinking about actually having a permanent sub each of summer. Let more know about that, just have somebody on call every day.
Exactly.
Because, and they can speak to it much better than I can. It's a daily grind. The secretaries are asking people to show up to cover, you know, during the day. We do have teachers that act as substitutes too, you know, for the period that they have a prep period, they go and fill in. So they have sometimes have different teachers throughout the day. So I don't have any comments, substitutes, favorite topic.
I think what you just mentioned is it does have the
It's a daily occurrence.
So is this relatively new then, is these new pay rates?
Yeah, it's been the
Couple years.
last 2 or 3 years.
So you have that a couple of years.
Yeah.
Right, so
Yeah.
wondering.
So it's
And we've
definitely
teachers
helped.
was funny, I like that.
Yeah. Right.
All that experience and stuff.
Sure. And that encourages them, makes it worthwhile. But the teachers for subs, so they, like, so say there's a social studies teachers out, then one of our teachers during the prep time will go in and teach that class.
Oh.
Yeah, so they give up their prep period and they go in and teach.
And we pay them.
We pay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we pay them.
Oh, that's a great way to do it. Sure it is. I would point out, however, that the starting pay for uncertified teachers at $90 per day is less than $15 an hour. Since we expect them to spend more than 6 hours in build. I have long advocated for beginning rates to be improved for substitutes, teacher aides, and other entry-level positions, so that people who do that very worthwhile work and feel that they're being compensated in a manner that will afford them the opportunity to support their family.
Still talking about the rate for teachers' aides, correct?
Yeah, working with Diane Teller and the association, association. So we're going to work with some to try to evaluate it's kind of a domino effect. So we change one, it affects the others that are above. So it all has to be done fairly and recently something that we're doing. So it's time to get through that whole adjustment.
If you raise, say, the teacher aides to $15 an hour, then those uncertified subs are going to be making less than your teacher aides.
Well, that's the domino.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. I appreciate the concern from a union point of view with regard to the contract. But I reread that contract a couple days ago. And all the contract says is that we must start them minimally. The minimum rate is $13 and whatever it is cents per hour. It doesn't say we can't hire them at a higher rate. And in our district, we have had a history of hiring people at higher rates. Well, we couldn't find people to fill positions for us. So as much as I appreciate the need to go through the union and to have discussions with them on this issue, and I think it's perfectly appropriate for us to do that. I still notice that in the action item directly above that the teacher aide substitute rate is $13.66 an hour. So I think those kinds of things, if we just had a board policy that we had a minimum wage in our district, then that I think would make the decision making on these issues much clearer. I understand the pressure though. You raise that by $1.34 an hour, and now someone who's making $35 an hour feels they should also get $1.34 an hour. I don't advocate that. I don't think because we're trying to help people who are at the low end, that means necessarily that everyone at the highest end has to get an equivalent increase. And that's why you have to negotiate it, because it's not fair to the taxpayer to increase high-level people just because you want to increase the entry. So I more power to you.
in your discussion.
One, concerning letter H on page 4, the coaching appointments for fall 2021. I know a year ago, when I discussed the modified football, we were going to have a follow-up discussion on how it works, injuries, etc. And obviously this past year was kind of the barometer for modified football and 7th and 9th graders. So can we just make sure that that gets put on an agenda for the fall after the football season is over? So we can have that discussion then and not forget about it.
If you want to, when do you like to
Whenever the modified football season is over.
over a couple?
Yeah, we were gonna have a discussion about it after fall football season, but it didn't happen.
Bill, any word on the numbers for football?
No, registrations for now, but I will say that we're going to have time on the number of those games. I think you could have that report today from Mr. Cummings. Very happy with it. Obviously, it was going to repeat its season this year, so it makes sense the end of October to get that report. So I don't have any numbers at this point.
Any other discussion on the?
I just have one quick question. Our non-paid assistants that are on the list for coaching, they have to go through the same background, everything. Okay, I assume that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Item 11, items requiring board action. Item A, the superintendent recommends that the board of, I can go in order and okay. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education designate M&T Bank as the district's lead bank. And the following banks, Bank of Holland, Bank of America, Evans Bank, JP Morgan Chase, and NICLAS, that's what I'm saying. And depositories for district monies. Moved by Dan. Second? Seconded by Terry. Discussion? Thank you, Joe. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
6-0. Thank you. Item B, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education appoint Paris Beach attorneys at law for school legal services through June 30th of 2020 under the terms and conditions detailed in the attachment. Moved by Dan. Second. Seconded by Joe. All those in favor? Aye, carried 7-0.
Just that last one, not that one, the one before should be 601, the abstain.
Oh, sorry, 601. Thank you very much, Mr. Ready. Thank you. You're probably going to be the bank one. Item A was 6.
No.
It was an abstention. Thank you. Thank you. Item C, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education appoint Webster Zani to attorneys at law for school legal services effective through June 30th, 2020, under the terms and conditions detailed in the attachment. By Dan. Second. Seconded by Kim. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried 7-0. Item D, the superintendent recommends the Board of Education appoint Hodgson Russ attorneys at law for school legal services through June 30th, 2022, under the terms and conditions detailed in the attachment. Have motion. Moved by Judy. Terry, sorry about that. You threw your voice, Terry. Seconded by Dan. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried 7-0. Item P, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education appoint Hodgson Russ attorneys at law for bond counsel school legal services through June 30th, 2020, under the terms and conditions detailed in the attachment. June 30th, 2022. Sorry, 2022. Thank you. I have motion. By Terry. Seconded by Dan. Discussion. All those in favor? 7-0. Item F, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education appoint
Personius Melber, attorneys at law for school legal services through June 30th, 2022, under the terms and conditions detailed in the attachment. I have a motion. By Joe. Seconded by Judy. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried 7-0. Item G, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education appoint Bufamonte Whipple Budafaro, PC, as the district's external auditor for the 21-22 school year, as detailed in your agenda. I have a motion. By Paul, seconded by Dan. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried 7-0. Item H, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education appoint executive secretary to the superintendent/public relations representative as the records access officer for the 2021-2022 school year. May I have a motion? By Kim. Seconded by Dan. Discussion? All those in favor? 7-0. Item I, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the resolution designating the board president as the board member having authority to appoint an impartial hearing officer on behalf of the Board of Education pursuant to Board Policy 7670. I have a motion. Moved by Terry. Seconded by Joe. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried 7-0. Jackie, tell me if I do this one in a way that is not appropriate. Stop me. Item J, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the resolution, the East Aurora Union Free School District of Erie County, New York, delegating to the board president the power to authorize the issuance of revenue anticipation notes. As detailed in your agenda. I have a motion. This will be a roll call vote.
Second.
Seconded by Paul. Discussion?
Well, my only discussion relating to this, I think I brought up last year as well, and that is that there's a reason for the roll call vote here. This is a very big financial decision made by one person, and that we're delegating them to do it. So I would just hope that we understand that in such a circumstance that the board will be consulted prior to taking action. I want to say I don't believe we have to or have a special meeting for that purpose. But I think if the president is going to issue these notes for hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, that we should be consulted prior to that happening.
That seems fair and reasonable. Any other discussion? Okay, we'll go around the table. Mr. Brunson?
Aye.
Also an aye. Aye. Carrie, aye. Aye. Judy?
Aye.
Joe? And Paul. Thank you. Item K, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the appointment of Christina Theobald to a probationary 1.0 position in the tenure area of education of children with handicapping conditions, general special education, beginning on September 1, 2021, as detailed in your agenda. Motion. Moved by Judy. Seconded by Joe. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Item L, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the appointment of Jacqueline M. Raby to the probationary 1.0 FTE position in the tenure area of physical education, beginning on September 1, 2021, as detailed in your agenda. I have a motion. Moved by Terry. Seconded by Judy. Discussion?
Well, I just would like to ask the superintendent to assure us that these positions that we're appointing to tonight are, this one in particular and the others, are within the budget that we passed in May, and that they are, in your opinion, sustainable for future years. Should the need for these positions.
Dan, can I just jump in? I was expecting you to do this on the last one. That one, actually, just so you're aware, that Nina Theobald one, Christina Theobald, is the new 811, which if sometimes you keep track of how many positions and who fills them. This is, the money for this wasn't in the budget presentation, but we're going to save that money in bringing those kids back from BOCES. So that's where that money comes from.
So it's within.
It's within the budget, but it was, if you're trying to line it up to FTEs, that's where that one comes from. Yep.
I think I knew that, but thank you very much.
Here in the middle school. Yep.
There will be a little asterisk on the monthly grid then in FTEs. Yeah. Fancy. Thank you. Thank you for the question, Dan. Also, any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye, carried 7-0. Item F, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the appointment of Anna L. Purdy to the probationary 1.0 FTE position in the tenure area of physical education beginning on September 1, 2021, as detailed in your agenda. I have a motion. Moved by Joe.
Second.
Seconded by Paul. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. 7-0. Item N, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the retirement separation payment to Nina Art as outlined in your attached or your agenda. May I have a motion? So moved. Moved by Judy.
Second.
Seconded by Joe. Discussion? She will be missed. Very much so. All those in favor? 7-0. Item O, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the retirement separation payment to the Diggler as outlined in your agenda. May I have a motion? Moved by Terry. Seconded by Judy. Discussion? Thank you to Mrs. Diggler. All those in favor? 7-0. Item P, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the retirement separation payment to Lori Maharian effective July 1, 2021, as detailed in your agenda. I have a motion. Moved by Judy. Seconded by Joe. Discussion? All those in favor? 7-0. Item Q, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the retirement separation payment to Candy Eugene effective July 1, 2021, as detailed in your agenda. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Joe.
Second.
Seconded by Paul. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried 7-0. Item R, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education accept the resignation for the purpose of retirement of Gary George Brownsworker effective September 10, 2021. I have a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Judy, seconded by Paul. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried 7-0. Item 12. Items of information. Our next board meeting is July 13th at 7:30 in the morning. Next regular scheduled board meeting is August 25th, so Wednesday. And the upcoming workshops are listed. A reminder to everyone to please email Sue Kramer your interest in the law conferences either in Rochester or virtually. Is there any other business to come before the board?
The July 13th should just be a small number of personnel items that we're just wrapping up and weren't able to get on tonight. So it'll just be 5, maybe 6. No discussion, no executive session. It'll just be, the paperwork didn't catch this meeting in time with the holiday.
Great, thank you. Okay, and the superintendent's office, 7:30 on July 13th. Any other items to come before the board? May I have a motion to adjourn? By Tim, seconded by Joe. Joe, thank you. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Carried 7-0. Yeah, I did it. All right, somebody call Mary Beth.
It's amazing.
It wasn't looking good. It was not looking good. Okay, folks, before anybody leaves, our board